Shalom, first and foremost, I'd like to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Double honors to the apostle elders, a great millstone who rule well, and salutations to all you brothers out there pushing this word in love, truth, sincerity, and humility. Once again, it's the brother Shot there from the Chicago camp, coming back to you with what I hope is another quick and edifying sit down. And this is on the Common Sense Show with Dave Hodges. And he says, inflation is the number one problem for half of America. Half. Now, I haven't watched the video yet, but the title alone speaks for itself. You have to remember the majority of the population censuses that they do for America, some will say it's probably 325, 350, maybe a little bit more, maybe 370 in some of them. But if we go with 350 million people in the United States, he said inflation is affecting 175 million people. And you know that's probably being generous. You know that's probably being generous because what they say 100 million people are unemployed right now. You're just 75 million short of that half. So America's in a bad case, folks. And Dave is going to speak on it in this very, I'm sure, short but informative video segment. So let's hear what Dave has to say, and then we'll get some scripture.
No big deal. Inflation. It shows that people have money and they're buying things. And then today, Joe, in his advanced cognitive analysis, said, I'm investigating the retailers. They're the ones driving up the prices. Yeah, Joe, so they can try to get to their 4% profit or go broke? No, that's not what's happening, Joe. Your deficit spending. You're increasing the transportation cost, which affects the price of everything because everything's shipped. That's what's destroyed our economy, Joe. You're the retailer that should be investigated. Here we go. The statistics tell us between 45 to 50% of the country is affected by inflation. In fact, that's their number one problem. 45 to 50%, their number one problem. You're saying, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding. No, I wish I was kidding. I'm not kidding. The number one problem for almost half of the country is inflation. And there's no end in sight as Biden continues to explore ways to shut down more pipelines, increase the transportation and shipping things. Buttigieg doing nothing about the supply chain problem. We'll just have to wait till the middle of 2022. Why do we have the position? Cancel the position, fire everyone in the department, save the money. Send it to welfare. It's where you're going to need it. This is just frightening, the leadership that we're not getting at the federal level. Think they care about you, folks? Why do you think I advertise for you to become independent in the areas of food, water, guns, cold ammo, natural medicine, and tools? Why do you think I do that? Because they don't care about you. They don't care what happens to you. And this is just one more proof. Jen Psaki, oh, it's wonderful. It's a lovely day in the neighborhood. That's it for the Common Sense Show. Please share this far and wide. Thumbs up, like us, and...
All right, you heard what he said. All right, all this stuff with spending money, printing money to infinity, bailout, shipping container, all these things have contributed to inflation, or what you could probably call hyperinflation. Okay? Which has put America in a huge case of debt, and it's put a lot of people in debt because they can't cover the cost of businesses having to raise prices due to this shipping crisis. And this is Habakkuk 2:6. And it says, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. All right, when you go into that word clay, it's debt. People are in debt because they cannot afford the cost of living anymore. Everywhere you look around, inflation has hit. Shipping container crisis. Inflation has hit it. They said that back in the day, it used to cost $2,000 to ship a container from overseas to America. Now, thanks to the crisis, now it costs $20,000. Gas used to be around $2-3. Now we're about to start paying $5 for gas. The cost of, produce, like milk, eggs, meat, all these things have gone up like 30% just in the past year. So you're talking about all these things have gone up, but the cost of living has stayed the same. And so this is why, as Dave said, over half, and I guarantee you, as I said before, that's generous, but half of the American people's number one concern is inflation. And that's because they cannot afford they can't afford what they need in life. And Ecclesiastic is sometimes referred to as Sirach 29:21 says, the chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame. But we have a situation where many people cannot afford these things right now. And Dave made mention that there's not going to be any relief anytime soon. There's not going to be any relief. So if folks can barely afford things right now, what do you think is going to happen in 2022 or 2023? Things are going to get really bad out here. It's going to cause people to get very desperate and very violent. And I remember one precept. Let me see if I can find it. Let me put it on pause real quick. Here it is. It's 2nd Ezra 15 and 18. It says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Because they're going to be forced into a situation where they're going to have to steal to feed themselves and their children. And it says, as we get into it, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Now let's get that word tribulation. Let's get a little dictionary. Tribulation. It says any adversity, a trying period or event. All right. So a very hard, let's say, very hard period or event, okay? It's going to try, it's going to test. It's going to test what? Your character, your faith. And many people are going to fail that test because their faith is not in the Lord. Their faith is in Egypt. They're so used to that covering of Egypt that they're not going to rely on the Lord. And because of that, as it says here, they're going to resort to having no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. That's what's going to happen because folks are getting to the point where they cannot afford anything. And all the programs that folks used to have back in the day to supplement the lack of rent or food or bread or clothing, all these things have gone by the wayside because there's no money to fund them, or the government has taken away the money to fund them. So, as he said, this thing is only going to get worse. So, uh, yeah, hopefully you've prepped in the spirit and, you know, uh, you're just right with the Lord. So, hope you all ratified. Until the next time, we're going to say shalom.